Hello, everybody. January the 16th, 2026. Welcome. This is episode number 80 of Into the Fire. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Tonight, I'm kind of solo. So I don't have Amanda here tonight, who is behind the curtain. So forgive any kind of issues if we happen to have any little hiccups tonight. But the guest that we have this evening is one of those people that, let me tell you something. You talk about somebody that has walked the walk, and anybody, if you haven't met any kind of cops, let me tell you something. As a cop that's been doing this almost 30 years, when he walks into the room, he gets your attention. So it's going to be a fun night. We're going to talk a little bit about the Boston bombing, etc., and his career up in Watertown, Massachusetts. Hopefully, everybody has had a great week. I'm excited about being here. I love Friday nights. I want to remind people at the beginning this time, like and subscribe, please. I would appreciate it. And you can also follow me over on my Instagram page. For those of you that are listening in on Spotify and Apple, you can basically catch me on Instagram. It's real easy to find. And then you can also catch me on Twitter. All you got to do is, or not Twitter, that's X, or that's TikTok. Sorry, TikTok. You can go ahead and take a picture of that QR code and catch me there. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick, if you go to the Tulsa Police Department or the Tulsa Police Museum, it's Tulsa Police Museum. If you go to that site, I'm actually speaking January the 23rd. This thing, there's a cost to it. I know if you're looking at the cost, it is all going to benefit the museum. All of it goes to 100%. We're putting together a museum. I'm just the speaker. But I'm not getting a dime out of this. And this is a really good event that I really hope that you guys, if you're living in the area, we've got about 50 tickets left of the 250. You got 1 week to get the 50 tickets. And I'm here to tell you that this thing is hitting the news this week. It's going to hit the news this weekend. And when it hits the news, I guarantee you, I've kept all of this basically strictly on my social media platforms. And we've sold, I think, 150, maybe 153 of the 200. And so they're going fast. And I'm telling you, like I said, if you've ever wanted to see me speak, this is the time to do it. And don't wait around. I'm telling you. Crazy week. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. And hopefully everybody's being safe. And those, I don't know. It's just been a crazy week. I'm up for the next murder. So hopefully we don't get called away here tonight. And I'm trying to see what we got going on and see who's in the house. Sally's in the house. Kathleen, Steph, of course. These are the regulars. I got Tyler Burns from Fort Wayne, Indiana in the house. How you doing, Tyler? He's got a good podcast, Debrief with Tyler. He's got his podcast going on. Danny's in the house. Thank you, Danny. Welcome, my friend. Bonnie. And she says, sorry, I missed you tonight. Well, you're here. I know you didn't miss anything. I'm right here, and we're going to have fun. So we're going to have a good night, and hopefully we're going to, like I said, we're not going to have any issues. Steph's saying $25 is a fair price, and $12 drink ticket sounds great. Well, $12 drink ticket, huh? Well, as somebody that likes to drink one every now and then, $12, but it's all going to a good cause. So don't worry about the cost. And by the way, just real quick, at the bottom of that screen, if you didn't see it, you can actually donate money to this event. There's a doctor from Austin, Texas that had actually reached out and says, hey, can I donate money? And I'm like, yes, and there's no limit, so bring it. So anyway, hopefully we'll make a lot of money for them. And they're going to start a weekly series, etc., is what they're planning on doing, and that's what's going to happen. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else to say. I got to tell you, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm nervous for a couple of reasons. I'm nervous that there could be an issue, and there hasn't been so far. That's really kind of scaring me a little bit. And I will tell you this, just real quick, I will mention something to you that this guy being from the Boston area, if I'm telling you, you're going to have to, this guy's got an accent, and it's legit. Okay. It is a legit accent. So you're going to be dealing with the Southern Okie accent, and you're going to be dealing with a thick Boston accent, but it's great, and you're going to love him. We'll just go ahead and bring Dave on, and I don't want to waste any of his time. Dave, Super Cop.
How's it going? How are you?
It's going great. Hey, listen, I'm not even going to read your bio. I want you to just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about who you are, and how many years you were a cop, etc.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know if I'm going to live up to the hype. Just what you said. It. I heard the introduction. It's a little tough, but no. So in a nutshell, first of all, I appreciate being here. It was great meeting you down in North Carolina. Jason and I, for the people that are out there, we met at the North Carolina Homicide Investigators Conference, which is just an outstanding conference. And I was speaking down there, and I ended up hooking up with Jason, the new one from the 48 Hours TV series and things like that, and we kind of hit it off. But just to kind of tell you, we do a lot of teaching now that I'm retired from the police department, and there's usually the two questions that come up is, who the hell is this guy, and what time are we leaving? So we know we're going to be here about an hour, and a little bit about myself, not too much, but I'm born and raised Watertown, Massachusetts guy. And we are yeah, thanks a lot, pal. I'm trying to correct it. But we are literally the next town over from Boston. So Watertown is pretty much, if you make the hub, we touch Boston, Waltham, Newton, Cambridge, and Belmont. So Cambridge, you have like Harvard University. Belmont is like McLean's Hospital, things like that they're known for. Watertown, we have Perkins School for the Blind. We used to have the Arsenal there. A lot of things like that, and certainly the city of Boston. Waltham has Bentley, Brandeis University, things like that. So Newton is certainly Boston College. So went to Watertown schools. Always graduated in 1984, and then right after that, just started working in the law enforcement field. We knew it. A bunch of us all wanted it, and that's one of the things I'd like to talk to you about tonight, Jason, is that how the shift has changed in law enforcement, because we knew in high school, a very big group of us, that we wanted to be in law enforcement. My uncle was in law enforcement. My uncle Henry MacNeil worked for Watertown PD, things like that. So right after that, as soon as I graduated, I started with the DOD, United States Department of Defense Police. And to be honest with you, that's where it all started, because I met some unbelievable mentors there. So you talk about coming up. I started with the DOD Police. Then I went to Watertown Police after that, and started from dispatcher to patrol, and did my last 22 and a half years in detectives. And what was great about that,
let me ask you a real quick question.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
So right,
I was just going to ask you that. Well, go ahead.
No, the best part about it was that because we were a small town, so Boston's huge, and Watertown's right next to it. Years ago, we were enormous, Watertown. It got changed up, but being from a small town, having the ability that I had, I call it very lucky in my career. I mean, here I am sitting with you right now, and from going from a town like Watertown, Mass, to the things that I was able to experience in my career was just awesome. And it was definitely from, and I've heard you say this a million times, that teamwork is a dream work and all that. And that can't speak, that can't be any louder or bolder in my career, because I really do think it was a mutual trust between myself and the police department that I got to go to these trainings. But then all the police in that area really took you under their wing and kind of benefited from it. So there's been a lot that's come from it, from the police department to the National Forensic Academy, down in Tennessee, the Body Farm. I was very lucky to be there, and and to become class president there and president of the alumni I was blown away. And then I went to the FBI Academy for specialized classes, the Secret Service Academy for specialized forensic photo. I was trained in Blackwater. A forensic consultant for Patricia Cromwell. She's a very well-known New York Times author. You know what I mean? Yeah. Things like that. To all these things, and now on the board of directors for the VDOC Society in Philadelphia. It's like you kind of sit back and you go, like I've heard you say, like, wow, like how'd you get here? Yeah. But and I say that very humbly and very proud, because the people that I've been with have been nothing but supportive and an actual boost. I mean, and I miss it so much, but.
I love it, man. How did you, as a kid? I mean, did you come? I guess it's because you had family in it. Of course, that's one of the main reasons. Yeah. But was there some point in your life where you're like, hey, listen, as a kid, you were like, man, I'm going to be a cop?
Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. I know we got an hour, and I'm not going to waste these times. I don't want people to have minutes of their life they're never going to get back. But I will tell you this: in first grade, kids draw what they want to do and what you want to be, and I actually wanted to be a detective in first grade. And then we had the junior police when I was like 11 years old. And when I retired, the Watertown newspaper did an article. One of the guys at the station, who's a lieutenant in detectives now, called somebody and goes, hey, David MacNeil's retiring. You should do a story. I go, who cares? I'm retiring. but they had the picture from when we were in the junior police when I was 12 years old. And here's all these kids. Half of them became cops, and there's this little fat kid with this stupid watch in the front row, listening to every word. And from then on, I just I loved it. And
Yeah.
getting into the forensic part of it there was a guy named Charlie Walsh, and I just got news today. He's not doing very well physically, but I mean, this guy was a legend with the FBI. I mean, outstanding. Any case you could think of, he did, and he was the biggest mentor around. And another guy named Brian O'Hara from the state police. Those two guys really pushed me with the forensic stuff, and I got to talk about these guys later on in the podcast about these two guys.
Let me ask you this: what was your you said that you wanted to do all that stuff. You finally get on Watertown Police Department. And when you get on there, everybody starts out on the streets. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody works in a police car in a uniform when you get out of that academy. And so, if you're going to work for a city cop, what were the certain jobs that you did at that point when you first get out? You work the streets, and where do you go from there? Because you progressed up to working murders or working.
No. So here's the thing: we didn't have many murders in Watertown. So the thing was that. I think it was 3 the whole time I was there. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we got to work around people that worked them, and then when you work the crime scene. So this is the part that we talk about in these crime scene trainings, that you may have a small department where you're not doing these murders. Like I mean, Jason, that's your whole thing is homicide. You know what I mean? But we try to do it so that you apply the same principles on everyday crimes that everybody deals with. It doesn't matter how big or small your police department is. You're going to have burglaries. You're going to have sexual assaults. Unfortunately, you're going to have property crimes and things like that. And that's what how we work with it. But when I first got on the street, that the big thing was community policing then. You know what I mean? And I always said they kind of put a name to something that the old timers were actually already doing. So the old school guys were doing community policing before it had a name. They knew everybody in the town. They knew everybody what they were doing. You go back to the same 4 things: people, places, the things they do, the times they do them. That's what they did. So I was assigned to, we had a housing project area in the east end of town. So I was assigned to that and to the malls. So what happened was the intercity people would come from Boston and get dropped off at the mall. So that was really like technically, the higher crime area, because we had things that were happening there. It was just more activity. So from there, we got involved with, we actually have something up in our area called NEMLEC. It's the Northeast Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. So when NEMLEC got started, it was because, you have a very big police department. Our departments around the area, in the Boston area, if you're not Boston PD, don't really have the manpower that you need. So let's just say we're working a string of robberies or house breaks or things like that, and we need 8 guys to do a surveillance the whole day. Well, we take 2 from each department. We kind of make our own schedules and work this thing out. So they devised NEMLEC. Not to get down into the weeds of it, but that was the idea. So 67 police departments got together and said, hey, let's do this all together. And we had an MOU, and everybody did our thing. The crime scene unit started. I started taking all these courses to get involved in crime scene. And then I took over one of the NEMLEC trucks. We had 2. There was one in Northland, Andover, Massachusetts, and one with Watertown. So I was handling all the departments around for crime scenes that was there. So I got to meet all the detectives, all their scenes. And to this day, I'm assuming you agree, you could know and have 500 trainings under your belt, but you are only as good as your resources and your network. And you have to have that. And that was the big thing. So
absolutely.
With NEMLEC, we did that, and things started coming about, and things just kind of progressed from there. And then Quantico, FBI Quantico used to do the free classes for the police. You could go down, you'd stay, in Quantico, and I was lucky enough to get a lot of training there at the Secret Service Academy. So that's how things really developed,
I trained in Quantico for a week. Pretty epic, because of just the history of that's there. And really where the money is, it's the networking with the other seasoned investigators and stuff that you are in the class with. And that's really what's, you meet people that you kind of, you could reach out to for the rest of your career. And it's pretty amazing. So yeah, I know you know what that's about. Just networking is really, really vital and so forth. And that's where we met. And just to let people know where I ended up seeing Dave was speaking in reference to the Boston case. And he was speaking at Carolina Beach in North Carolina, the North Carolina Homicide Investigators Association. I'm going to give them a plug because are you speaking in the mountains coming up here in April?
I did May and I did October. So that's their spring and their fall conference. So I won't be
okay. So I'm flipping it. So
Oh, there you
I
go.
did the other one. So I'm going to speak with the other crew and the other side of the state. So what happens is that we speak on the west. I'll be speaking on the western side of the state, but that's where I met him. And so I was very interested in hearing him speak. And when he got up there to speak, he's one of those that, like I said, I mean, you can hear his background, and he's not making this up. I mean, I've been around this business long enough to know that, I've heard people and I see their resumes and I've read about them, and then you see him speaking, and you're like, are you kidding me? He's legit. And Dave knows what I'm talking about for sure.
Yeah. But
So,
and that's the first thing you do when you say this, because, and I did start young. I started at 19 when I was in the police department, and the big thing was because we were from a town like Watertown, I knew the police from when I was young in the junior police, all these kind of things. So I learned very early that everything is networking and taking care of people and doing things, And when I first got on, some of the old timers who were relieving, I mean, they started in 1958, some of them, and they were retiring when I got on, and they turned, like, when I got into detectives, like the gypsies. You can't say gypsy today. You have to say transient criminal, but all this stuff. But they go by gypsies themselves, or they say it. To have a relationship with all of them, and I just can't say enough about the job in general. It's just outstanding, and I was very, very lucky to have the people around me that I had.
That's surprising to me, Dave. I didn't know that I didn't know Gypsies was out.
They
I
have
knew
the Gypsy Foundation. Yeah.
Okay. I know manhole cover is a no-no, at least in certain parts of the country. I know that the First 48 has tried to get us to go, you can't use homeless. You got to call them unhoused. And we're like, negative to that.
Yeah, right. No, it's
not going to happen.
They call themselves a gym, and I will tell you this, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place from starting to
that's all right.
And everything, but I would tell you, man, when they always say when you retire, if you have a mixed group, you may have done your career right. And when I had my retirement party, I have never been speechless, but I will tell you this, on the day I retired, I was like a 4-year-old kid who lost his dog. Man, I couldn't get one word out at that counter. It was horrific the day I left, but I had all the gypsies come in for my actual retirement party, and one of the captains was doing the roll call. He says, "Can I ask you who these are?" I said, "That is the king of the gypsies right there." He goes, "Well, I respect nothing less, Dave." But it was great. It was a good run, and I miss the police work very much. And when you and I were talking before, it's like you really can't give it up. So this is how I'm pretty happy with what's happening now with being a member of the VDOC Society. I'm a team Adam consultant for NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, things like that. There are things that are still happening that you're kind of still in the game, making an impact. You may not be sworn anymore, but you're still part of it. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, and there's his website, and let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me that organization again. That it's the Cold Case organization, and tell the listeners kind of how that works, because this is this is free, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll tell you something, and I mean this sincerely. I know we're kind of joking around and jumping around here, but at the end of the day, this really it's the VDOC Society, and it's spelled VIDOCQ. So it's VDOC.org, and it's really something. There's only 82 full members, and then we have maybe a couple of hundred of special members. And what it is we are a catalyst, really, for law enforcement agencies for cold cases. So VIDOCQ, actually, VIDOCQ.org. And what happens is, if police departments have cold cases around the country, let's say, doesn't matter where you are, Hawaii, California, Philadelphia, wherever, you submit your case to the VDOC Society, and I'm very happy to be on the board there, and your case gets looked at. And if it's a viable case, we'll take a peek at it. So what it is, it's other than just police looking at your case, you have FBI profilers, medical examiners, attorneys, we have an orthopedic surgeon, we have all kinds of toxicologists, all these people looking at your case and what happens is the investigators they come to Philadelphia. It's at the Union League in Philadelphia, which is an outstanding building right in Center City, and they present their case over lunch. And then after that, your case goes before what we call a post-presentation working group. So you come down, the police are totally in control of their case. You don't turn anything over to us. It's law enforcement solves the case. This is just a couple of different opinions. So you could say, hey, look, you're exhausted on forensics, you're exhausted on this, but you may have something here from the medical examiner. Bill Fleischer just spoke the other day at a big memorial. Him and Nate Gordon, these guys, they're the best polygraphers in the country. Do you know what I mean? They're constantly training people. Here, the Brown University shooting, most of the commentators on the news around are all VDOC Society members. You know what I mean? A lot of them, which I can't believe. So when we go to talk about from how you started from this little kid who wanted to be a cop to actually into sitting around a table with people who are consulting on some of the biggest crimes in the country is it's really humbling. I honestly, it's humbling. I could sit here and talk all day about things that I did, and we have a million funny stories and great stuff. But at the end of the day, to still be doing this, and what you and I talked about, Jason, to be able to still make an impact is huge.
Yeah, and that's the move. And my director behind the curtain, who's not Amanda, it's Chris. He's kind of one of my mentors, and he's back here, and he said, "Hey, Dave, move a little closer to the mic in the future."
Oh,
but yep, there you go. So anyway, I mean, it'll be just a little better. So just real quick, the VDOC Society. How does one get asked to be a part of that? Because that is a very prestigious invite. And how did that come about?
So to be honest, from teaching, so I started the police department, went in there, got into detectives, did the NEMLEC crime scene unit. From there, FBI, Secret Service, all these things. And then when I started doing this, I went to a couple of training classes down at Searchy, the crime scene company down in North Carolina. So while I was there, I met one of the instructors down there. His name is Dave Pauly. Dave is a tenured professor at Methodist University who has an outstanding forensic science program. And we would kind of teach us stuff. And we were going back and forth, whatever. And at the end of the week, he goes, "Geez, buddy," he goes, kind of get your head into this thing a little bit here. Are you interested in teaching? So I started teaching for them. And then he says to me, honestly, he goes, "Have you ever heard of the VDOC Society?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You've heard of the VDOC Society?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Where is it?" I go, "It's in Philadelphia at the Union League. You do cases." He couldn't believe it. So he invited me as a guest. And that was 7 years ago. And we were just talking about this. I was there last weekend. Yesterday, I came home yesterday. And then I ended up going to a few of the meetings. And you're just quiet there. You do your thing and listen. You don't speak. And then I was actually invited to be a member a couple of years later. And then so we have special members and full member. And now I'm in the second term on the board, which is just outstanding. And the thing is, it's it has a mystique. It's very professional. And everything we do is all pro bono. We all go down on our own dime. You go down there to Philadelphia, you pay your own thing. We actually pay to go to the meeting ourselves. Everything's on their own dime, and everything is done by donations and sponsorships and things like that. So we try to have the website now and just say these are the things that we're supporting, and it's just a great group of guys who like we're just talking about right now, from different age groups. Some people are still in their 70s and 80s, and they still go every month. Who work cases for 40 or 50 years.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So if a person that's out there that's listening to this that happens to have a loved one that's been killed, because believe me, I get messages from all parts of the country. They see you on TV and they're like, "Hey, listen, these detectives, they're not listening to me." I was messaging somebody just a couple of days ago from Florida, and it's like, look, this is kind of how they do it. Let's give the detectives a little bit of slack, because. Just because they're not calling you doesn't mean they're not doing something. And this is kind of just the gist of what they're doing and the toxicology, but et cetera. And it takes time. So my point is that for somebody, let's just say that, they're just hitting their head up against the wall, and it's one of those types of cases. This is a case that theoretically they would at least they get in contact with you. And then that's something that you possibly get in. Okay.
No, so how it works is the law enforcement does it. So we do everything with law enforcement. So if let's say they had a liaison or anybody there, they would speak to that detective. The detective would reach out to the case manager at VDOC, and then that would get submitted for a case review. So we do 9 a year. We do 1 a month, except for July, August, and December. And this is it. That's it. So the case comes in, we take a look at it, and it doesn't matter what the case is. If it's old, if it's a cold case, we'll take a look at it, things like that. But they do have some restrictions, and it's all on the website how they do it. But it is law enforcement submits the case, and we work alongside them. And law enforcement runs the entire case. We are just simply a catalyst and a discussion group to kind of maybe toss some ideas around. But it's just amazing with the people that you meet.
So if you're a law enforcement agency out there, that's well, you've already jumped over the first hurdle that you would have, because you're not dealing with having to call a law enforcement agency going, hey, can we look at your case? Because I would assume that you kind of hit some resistance with that from time to time, I would think.
That would never happen. So like that, and that's the whole point about this, that it is so professional, Jason, that we're quiet, we sit in the weeds, man. We don't want anything to do with this. Law enforcement is doing this, and it's just like, if there's a lot of if you're just kind of at your wit's end, it's just nice to have a set of fresh eyes, maybe take a peek at it to see maybe there was something that wasn't available then that is available now, things like that are out there. And it's never of, hey, I did this and you did this, whatever. And that was the best part. That to me, that was the absolute best part of being part of the detectives when I was there. Because when we did something, it was always we. If we did a great case and everybody did it and we solved it. And let's just say, you did the whole thing. You're the 99% guy, and the other 4 just kind of with support. Well, we did it because the next time he's going to be that guy. And when there was a mistake, we all screwed up. That's how it was. You know what I mean? And that's the best thing I thought about in this job, because there was nobody like walking around with their arms out, hey, look at me, I'm doing this. But everybody had their niche. I was good with the crime scene and I was good with interviews. Somebody else was great with digital stuff and all these kind of things, because each case, as you know, has so many different moving parts that you can't be good at everything. You have to stay in your lane. And that's why when I started the company, I started out as ridge count forensics, as with a latent fingerprint, the ridge count between adultery and a core. And it got so confusing, and people saying ridge, and it was just a nightmare. But when I switched to this one, I got specialists, actual subject matter experts in each field. If you have someone that's looking for a death investigation case or a cold case and you wanted to work it, I have Tom McAndrew. Forensics, it's myself, and I told you Brian O'Hara. Brian O'Hara was the detective lieutenant of the Massachusetts State Police, and he was one of the commanders of the crime lab. And he actually just wrote a book. It's called The Rest of the Story, a memoir by Brian O'Hara. I read chapter 1 today. I'm blown away. This guy's book is just unbelievable. And you talk about the real deal, him and the FBI guy I told you about, Charlie Walsh, outstanding, just outstanding guys. And that's kind of
what's his name? What's his name again? The Rest of the Story by who?
The Rest of the Story by Brian O'Hara. Brian O''Hara.
Yeah, so that sounds like
chapter 1 today. I'm like, buddy, I'm in. Yep, outstanding.
Okay, well, that's yet another book I need to add to my list of the many.
I'll tell you right now, those 2 guys have done more than I could tell you, and that's another kicker. So that's how it started with NEMLEC. So we started teaching NEMLEC detectives this course. Older detectives, and I got to name them. Mike Goulding, he was a detective lieutenant in Medford, Mass. I mean, big crimes happen over there, things like that, and they let me come in as part of the the curriculum part of it. When they moved on, Brian and I started teaching. Things started doing these things. We started a 10-day detective program, and it's been great. And again, you get to meet the younger detectives that are coming in now, so you're still in it. That's the big deal.
Yeah, and I love that. Well, I completely agree with you, Dave, that everybody's got their own little special niche in there, and mine too. I came from crime scene to go to homicide, and so I kind of, at least in my own mind, I'm kind of a legend in my own mind when it comes to interviews, for sure.
Yeah, right. No, there you go. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then crime scenes, so. Yeah. But I only worked in crime scene for like a year and a half, so I only learned like 5 minutes of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It takes years to really be you have to be a student of it, and that's one of the things that, kind of like you, Dave, I wanted to be a homicide guy. For me, I wanted to work murders from like 6 years old, which is not normal.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway, so well, good. So you did that, and then you did that. So you got your website, you do all this other stuff, you do a little bit of private eye stuff as well.
Yeah.
So to kind of make ends meet, I'm sure you can't just do it all for free. And so here you are. You managed to do all this stuff. What was the body farm like, by the way?
The body farm, I'm going to tell you right now, was without a doubt one of the best things I've ever done in my police career. I met guys, instructors down there, John Williams, Terry McCleary. These were old SLED agents. Diane Bodie, they were agents for SLED for South Carolina law enforcement. Trey Wilson, Texas Ranger. And here I am again, Watertown, Mass, PD. You know what I mean? 40,000 people, 4 square miles, and I call up on the Texas Rangers and say, "Hey, what's going on, buddy?" It's wild. And when we went down there was absolutely no joke. You started early, you finished late, and it was for real. We did everything from a property crime up to, we had a week of bomb school. I said, while we were sitting there, I go, I will never use this in my entire career with bombs. And then you have the Boston Marathon bombing. That happened in Boston on Watertown. But, a lot of things like that. Arson school. I became the arson investigator for Watertown, working alongside the fire department. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. It was just unbelievable. And to this day, just 2 days ago, I'm still talking to people from that academy that I went in 2007. That's like 18 years ago, and we're still just like I've never missed a beat when I picked them up on the phone.
Yeah, we were talking today. Well, we were talking today, and you're like, when I heard you say Doug from Triad Forensics, you're like, that can't be Doug Young. Well, yeah, it is. He was on this show. He's been a guest here. He's my buddy.
I teach with Doug Young. I mean, Doug Young's in Colorado. I'm like, what are the chances of Boston to Colorado? So you talk to people like, you don't know that guy. I go, I actually do know that guy, and he's a great guy. So that's what I do. And that's what I think keeps the fire going.
That's right. Well, you keep people that are really good at this job in your stable, and people that you can reach out to and call. And that's what it's all about. So this is perfect. So this is a great time to segue a little bit into, you said, well, I'm not Boston, I was Watertown, but you know what? You guys are tight knit. And I was telling Dave off the air, just to kind of give the people a little bit of an idea of this. I spoke in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where Plymouth Rock is, or at least allegedly that's Plymouth Rock. But there's a rock there that they say is Plymouth Rock. And but anyway, I spoke there a long time ago, and or probably I think it was back in 2017 or 2018, something like that. And the one thing that I noticed about the police officers from the Northeast, and it's the same for New York, man, it's that you guys have a brotherhood, and it's really they treat you like family. If you come up there, it's like you know them your whole life. And so that's the one thing that I actually really do appreciate about hanging out with police officers from that way. And they're always, willing to share stories and just really treat you like you're one of them. And so that's why I say that just because you're Watertown, you guys were all in this together. So go back to the day when the Boston bombing happened. Where were you at, and kind of what started to be, because I'm sure you're on high alert at that point, even though you're from another agency. So tell me about a little bit about how that started.
Yeah, so the Boston Marathon, I mean, that's a place where people went for generations. Generations went there to the finish line. That was a big deal to go to the finish line. And like I was telling you, even the Boston Red Sox, they play home on that day, on Patriots Day, at 11 o'clock in the morning. They start specifically so the game will be over in time for the people to leave Fenway Park and walk over to Boylston Street where the finish line is. So where they did that at the finish line, that was really like something, because that really is the place where everybody goes. But for decades, and the bombs went off around 10 minutes to 3 in the afternoon. I was actually in New Hampshire. I was shopping, doing something, picking something up, and we heard on the radio that those bombs went off at the Boston Marathon. I said, "You got to be kidding me!" So things happened, and right away, within minutes, the self-deployment was wild from area departments. Chiefs and detectives from every area and things like that. And everybody just started going to the place, which was good and bad, I think, because there was a lot of self-deployment that was there. We spoke to some people. I had a friend of mine on the ATF. I spoke to him. I said, "Hey, I'm post-blast trained. If you need people," FBI was down there. It was absolutely huge. And then in the days following that, what really got people ramped up was there was a lot of false stuff happening on the media. They were claiming that they had people in custody, that they were watching somebody on guard at the hospital, all these kind of things, and they weren't true. And then it comes down to where on the night of on that Thursday night, they gave out at 5:30 in the afternoon that they had the 2 suspects, black hat and white hat. And then 5 hours later, unfortunately, Sean Collier is killed. And then they hear about the carjack. Carjack is...
Well, hang on a minute. Go back for a minute. I want to stop you real quick. Yep. So you're talking about black hat and you're talking about white hat. So just here's a picture up in the crowd. It's not the one showing the black hat, but there's white hat right there.
Yeah.
Circled, and then you can see the device.
Yes, that's it. Yep, that's him.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, did that little boy that's circled there? I think he ended up dying. But 280 people. This was April the 15th, of what was the year? Was it
2013.
Okay, 2013. So we're coming. It's hard to believe it's been 13 years.
I can't
almost.
believe it. Yeah, I can't believe it.
It's crazy. So this thing happens, and they started talking about white hat and black hat. And so what kind of happens with respect to your guys in your department at that point?
So when that goes out, so even when that happened, because everyone's so close, certainly everybody's paying attention to what's going on. Everybody's ramped up, whatever, because it had been days and there was nothing going on. And now it's been 2 or 3 days. You're getting information back and forth. Law enforcement agencies are changing information, some are not. And then you get to the night of where this happens. Then you have Sean Collier, unfortunately, is killed at MIT. That happens, and then so that's in the city of Cambridge that we talk about. Danny Mang, who's a victim of, he's driving a brand new Mercedes, he gets carjacked by 2 guys. While he gets carjacked, these 2 guys tell him that they're the Boston Bombers and that they're going to New York. Danny Mang just for quickly in time, decides to say, hey, you know what? They stop for gas and do whatever. He just bolted across the street from one gas station to another. And I think we kind of talked about that, where that was a little bit of a delay because Danny Mang had very, very limited English and the clerk had even less. So he's banging on the door saying, call 911. They don't know how to deal with this. But Cambridge police is dealing with a police officer who just got shot, and he's claiming his car was carjacked. In the end, communication gets made. He says, look, I can tell you where my car is. And that's how Cambridge notifies Watertown that this vehicle is pinging in Watertown on Mount August Street, which is one big street that goes right from there, right to Cambridge from Watertown. From there, the police, Joe Reynolds, I'm going to tell you right now, is one of the most stand-up cop guys. I mean, I love Joe Reynolds, one of the best guys in the world. He sees the car. He says, hey, I see this car. Do you want me to stop it? John McClellan, I went to school with him. We graduated together. I mean, he was a year ahead of me, but we all went to school together. He's like, hey, hold on, Joe. I'm right behind you. Light him up. They make the stop. And as soon as they put the lights on, Joe puts the car in park. They get out, and Tamlin starts shooting at him. Joe puts the car in reverse, backs up, and smashes it to a telephone pole, and the shootout is on. 8.5 minutes later, here we are. The car takes off, and that's when the ball gets rolling. But the kicker is, which I want the people to know, was everybody talked about this at the beginning, as to how many police got there so fast. The reason was because the city of Boston had so many police officers with tack jackets and everything else because of what happened to the city just days prior. So when this happens at 1 o'clock in the morning or 12:45 in the morning on a weeknight, there's zero traffic. You're nothing. You're 5.5 miles from downtown Boston. So they were there in minutes. You hear shots fired, doing this, and when they start saying they're throwing explosives at us, it wasn't hard to figure out who they had, and everybody responded there. So that's when the ball really started to get rolling on it. And then 19 hours later, we find them in the boat.
Yeah, not a normal situation for a cop ever. You know, terrifying to say the least, especially if they're throwing pipe bombs in your direction. And so, and it wasn't, and they were unloading guns on. I mean, it was like a war zone, was it not?
Well, that's what it was. Like, and when the younger brother was saying that, the older brother, well, he made me do it. I was kind of a tag along or whatever. And what happened was we actually got some photos from one of the neighbors on the street. And those are the only pictures that we have that actually show them in like an old school Weaver type stance, like standing there with perfect form shooting. And the younger brother was helping him reload, but the police actually thought there was 4 guns. They actually said on it, they got 4 guns. They're throwing explosives. They had a pressure cooker there. There was things going on. And I know these officers, and I've known them for years. I mean, I've known John since we were kids, and you could tell in a minute. I mean, Jason, when you hear someone's voice on the radio from the police department, and it's a routine thing, that's it. You can hear the heightened excitement in their voices. Yeah. But then when you can hear the bullets firing, it was a barrage. It was a little barrage. These guys, they were just unbelievable. Great.
Yeah, it's really shocking that they didn't kill that Asian guy. Why not? You've already done what you're going to do. Why take a chance? You know what I mean?
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. And to this day, why they kept them there, who knows? And but it was really very, very helpful. And very shortly after that area of Watertown, there were thousands of police officers there. You know what I mean? Every 3-letter agency you could think of was there. Police departments that were there. I mean, New Hampshire State Police were there in no time. People were there forever. And it was just amazing. And the lieutenant, who actually became the incident commander there, became chief of Watertown, Mike Long, one of my best friends. I mean, literally one of my best friends. Now, he had been calling me out on call outs. I went on call December 23rd, 2002, and never said no. Never. So my daughter was actually, my youngest daughter, had like this little $7 landline phone, and she used to hear me in the middle of the night getting called out. And so she knew it right away. She knew Mike. And I always call up and say, okay, where are we going? You know, how's it going to go? And that night I could hear his voice was completely different. You know, they said, listen, an MIT cop was shot. McCollum was in a shootout. I said, you gotta be kidding me. We were down there minutes after, and then we never left. But that goes back to the bonding and all that stuff, because everybody was so close. It really made things work well. And we were very close with the agencies that were showing up too. Very, very helpful.
Yeah. So then from that point, this is when and they what happened to one of the brothers there at the scene?
So what happened was, and this is wild.
This is kind of one of my favorite parts of the story.
This is really you couldn't make this up, man. So the Joe Reynolds puts his lights on. McCollum comes down. McCollum's car, the bullet goes through the windshield. His car continues to roll and hits a fence. So that's the most heavily armed vehicle we have. All the bullets are in there. The shields are in there. Everything. These guys have nothing. The car is down the end of the street, and they're firing back at them this way. One of the officers, Jeff Pugilis, he's a sergeant on the job. And going back to that, Jeff Pugilis and a guy named Billy Patterson were the first two guys who taught me how to shoot when I was 16 years old, like 17 years old. And here's Jeff, who worked the 4 to 12 shift. He's off duty at that time. He did a call at a local bar room, and he had to write a report, so he was in the station late for 45 minutes. He hears the call going off, and everybody has take-home radios. He decides to fly up there in his own car. Everybody's going to the scene. Jeff decides to flank and go on the right-hand side, hops a fence, and he's within feet of one of the brothers. They have a shootout going back and forth, and at the end, Tamerlan starts to take off. Jeff runs after him. They go to tackle him, and he's still fighting after they shot him a bunch of times. And he's still fighting. At this point, the younger brother jumps into the stolen Mercedes and starts driving away from the officers. Now, instead of just driving away and taking off, he does a U-turn and turns right back at the officers. Now, there's two officers in the middle of the street trying to arrest Tamerlan. Apparently, he didn't see that was his brother. He starts gunning for the two police officers. The officers break away last minute, and the car goes by, but scoops up his brother and drags him several feet, 30 feet plus, and smashes into the 465 car that Joe Reynolds was driving that was against the telephone pole that had no give. So, in essence, the younger brother kills the older brother, so he was shot and run over, and then takes off, and then leaves and bolts from up the street. And that's how the whole thing starts. And that's what we.
Yeah, that's intense. So how many days? Wasn't this like 3 days after? 4 days.
1 a.m. Would be the fourth day. So
Okay.
it was the 15th.
Massive manhunt. I mean, and I don't even know what the technology was back then. I mean, we're talking 13 years ago. I'm sure the FBI had the best of the best. You know, facial recognition of today is just, I wouldn't even think about committing a crime, ladies and gentlemen. Not a good idea in today's world. But back then it wasn't as good as it is now. So,
right.
and I think if I'm not mistaken, did somebody, I mean, how did they end up identifying these guys, if you know?
Well, what it was one of the restaurants had video, and they went down there. I believe it was the Forum. Don't quote me, and I certainly don't want to talk about Boston's investigation, but I believe it was the Forum that got these two pictures that showed one of them coming in with. They showed them coming in with backpacks, and they showed them walking away without them, and that's how it was kind of put together. And then there was a lot of, I mean, they were working nonstop to develop these guys, and then it came out that's who they were. But when that started on that day, so it was the December the 15th, around 10 minutes to 3 in the afternoon, and he was captured. I think it was like 101 hours later, if you figure it out, down to the time that we actually took him to custody on the boat. You know.
All right. So from that point of that deal on that street right there, where this craziness is happening.
Yep.
The younger one, what's his name?
Zokar.
He manages to get away, and then he disappears. And where do they end up finding his car in relationship to where this had ended up happening?
So the shootout happens on Laurel Street, Dexter and Laurel. This guy, he turns around, he tries to run the officers over, kills his brother, and continues up Laurel Street. When he does that, that street technically becomes Spruce Street. He goes up to an intersecting street of Lincoln, which goes down a hill and kind of curvy. There was a question whether he went right or left. to use dogs, not use dogs, things like that. They set up a perimeter, and what happened is he ran left and then found a boat that was shrink wrapped for the winter. The guy hadn't put it in the water yet. It's still April, and he climbed in there, and he was there for hours. And then it wasn't until after we lifted the shelter in place, moments later, that we found this, because the guy whose boat it was, Dave Henneberry, another local guy, everybody knew him, just a really, really nice guy, goes out to have a cigarette, let his dog out, and he loves his boat. He looks over his boat and he sees like this little step stool up against the boat. He goes, how's that get there? He stands on it. He sees what appears to be blood on the side of the boat, peeks in and sees a body, calls the station, and that was the call that changed everything. We were done. We were taking our vests off, everything. The fire department was closing the street down, like this thing was over. And then it came back from that 911 call.
Yeah. And I've seen the presentation. Actually, yours is, I think, the third one. I've seen Vince Delfonso. You know him?
Yeah, I heard of him. I didn't work with him.
Yeah, hostage crisis negotiator from the FBI forever, and I've seen him in Calgary and some other place that I saw him. But he's talked about this, and you can see the video, and you hear a lot of gunfire going on when people are, there's a lot of cops, man. It's like all cop cars converge on this area all at once. And by the way, just real quick before we get to that, how were the citizens with respect to you guys? Were you a part of, kind of the house to house search?
Yeah, that was one thing, and at the time, so we did a reverse 911 call to one area of town and said, hey, look, this is what's happening, to everybody do this, shelter in place. That extended when the governor came into Watertown. At the time, it was Deval Patrick. They ended up shutting down not only Watertown, but Boston and all the surrounding areas were shut down. I mean, to shut down the city of Boston for one day is insane to do that. I mean, you have people going in. We have some of the best hospitals in the country, Mass General, Dana-Farber. I mean, major medical hospitals. People had surgery scheduled, waiting months to do these kind of things. And it's like, that's it. Nothing's running. It was really, really something. So that in its own was wild. But the shelter in place where it became we started searching people's homes to see if he was there. But couple that now with people calling saying, I see someone in the backyard. I just heard something. Someone's in my basement. All these kind of things. And a lot of the issues were we really couldn't talk to anybody. You had a lot of police officers, but we couldn't communicate because we weren't on the same radio, same channel. And then if you had 5 police officers from another town, and I say, hey, they're at 48 Spruce Street, no one knows where Spruce Street is. So we were trying to team people up with somebody local to the people that were there. So we're searching the houses, but the people got it. And one thing about the people at the end, when he was finally captured, Jason, I was absolutely blown away. I mean, there's videos on it. They were literally cheering in the streets. It was absolutely wild. They called it America's largest manhunt. It's really something. And and maybe you could attest to this. I don't know, but sometimes I say this all the time. When you're working and you're inside a case, sometimes you miss what happens where someone who's from outside the case might take a peek at it and take a look at it. So here we are, we're there for 19, 20 hours working this thing nonstop. You don't know all the moving parts that are happening all around the case. And to come out and see all these people in the street was just amazing. The support for the police then versus now is quite different.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that lasted quite some time. And I mean, what's just out of curiosity? I mean, and you don't have to really get deep into this, but I mean, what's the relationship with the public and the police in like the Boston area? Is it pretty good?
Well, yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's good. Yeah, no, big. They're big on community things and working at it, whatever. You're always going to have the issues, and a lot of guys were worried about body cameras, but I think body cameras ended up being a great thing for the police because a lot of times, and everyone's like, oh, what are we going to do with these body cameras? The majority of the people do things right. It's very helpful to have the cameras that are there. But in Watertown and the surrounding areas, and Boston too, Boston's big on it. We have all these, I've done the Citizens Police Academy for 28 years. We did it on this. We have people come in and we go through a whole ropes of everything, and they get a better understanding of the police. And what that did was that really removed the taboo of going to a police station just to visit. The fire station, kids would go by, jump on the fire trucks, do all this kind of stuff, but the police station wasn't really like that. So we started these programs. One of the officers in our department, her name is Kerry Kelly. She's amazing. she runs like the Middlesex Sheriff's Camp. She has them come to Watertown PD one week. We did the crime scene classes with them, and I mean they're really doing fingerprinting and things like that. It really it helps because when you get the kids that are young, they form a bond because that's all we talked about was the junior police and how it was unbelievable to see a police officer, at 10 and then 14 and then 15, and now they're writing a reference letter for you to get the job, and then here's the complete reversal. I end up becoming president of the Watertown Police Relief Association. So what that does, that handles all like the death benefits. Unfortunately, when police officers die and when they're sick and all these kind of things. And in that picture that I told you about in the article that I was when I retired, is Sergeant Richie Gagnon. I went to school with his sons, Billy, Richie. We all went to school together. Bobby Gagnon. So his father was the sergeant in the picture telling us about the junior police. Years later, here I am processing unfortunately his death claim for his family doing the insurance. It's just a complete wild circle to go from this little kid listening to this guy talk, and I'm giving your family an insurance check for when you passed away years later. And that's the whole point about it. It's a lifestyle, man. It's a lifestyle. If you treat this like a job, I don't mean to make fun of any company, but it's not like working for the Gap. I mean, when you're a detective and you're a police officer, it's a lifestyle. It's not a job. And
that's right.
There's a lot of loss with it.
Yeah.
A lot of loss with your family. I can't tell you how many things I missed.
Tyler brings up an interesting question to go back. I'm doing my best here, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
I'm not used to having to do all this other stuff, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
and I'm old, Dave. Just like so as I'm doing this, and Dave's going to be putting together a podcast himself, so I'm going to highly recommend that when that happens. And so and I hope so. And so anyway, one of the things that Tyler brings up that I think is a great point. I mean, friendly fire in this situation. I'm sure, man, you had, I mean, there was some crazy stuff going on in this deal, and I'm sure that was definitely a concern with but there are certain situations, and I know that you know what I'm talking about. There's certain situations that it's all hands on deck, and people aren't stopping until the mission is accomplished. And I have no doubt that that's what happened on this particular deal, for sure.
I mean, when you hear the radio transmissions about that, and you heard him, Jason, I played him for you, and that's Officer Joe Reynolds. I mean, he's the first guy in the shootout. He does whatever, and then he's working on the officer who is shot, and he's saving him. He's screaming, "Where's the rescue?" Do whatever, and then it turns out these officers scoop him up, and one of the police officers drives the ambulance to the hospital because it's like they weren't going to wait. They drove the ambulance to the hospital, and we find out later that the emergency brake was on, I guess, the whole time, and the thing squealing and doing whatever, but nothing was going to stop that officer from getting to the local hospital. And that hospital is really not a level 1 heavy trauma hospital, and that officer needed that, and they really did a great job. They saved his life. It was just
I remember you talking about that when you were presenting, and I was thought that's important to mention. There's certain hospitals that they're geared for that kind of jazz, and they sent him to a hospital that they're not really geared for it, but they saved his life, which is pretty incredible.
It's a matter of 1 mile. You could go 1 mile one way, and you're going to get someone. It's kind of like a broken ankle type of hospital doing whatever, and you go 1 mile the other way, and you have a mass trauma center like Boston Medical or Mass General. I mean, these hospitals are amazing. Back to Israel, amazing hospitals. It's just wild.
So when you're there, and he's at the boat, and somebody had mentioned it earlier, and they were talking about the FLIR, and I had a picture, but I don't know where the heck it went. So, but there's that FLIR vision that you can see inside of that boat. Yeah. How long did this take place from the time? I mean, roughly from the time that you guys had identified that this guy or somebody's in the boat to the point of him getting to this point. How long are we talking here, roughly?
Maybe a couple of hours, but less than a couple of hours. So the call came in don't quote me on it, a little after 6 o'clock, maybe something like that. It was still light out in April, and then it was a little after 8ish, maybe 7 or 8 o'clock or something like that when it was dark when he was finally taken into custody. He was in the boat for a while, but they tried to talk to him, they tried to do whatever, and it was kind of up in the air about how he was going to be handled. Nobody knew, did he have additional weapons? Were there additional bombs inside there? And we're all rushing up to the boat to be there. And I remember one of the troopers coming over to me and said, "Are you crazy?" Because we were so close to the boat that they were like, if this thing goes up, like everybody was in that circle. There was a lot going on there, but people were trying to end this. They wanted to end this quickly, and they just wanted him in custody. That was the deal. And And it was just,
And that brings up, well, this is interesting. Just curious, what happened to the boat?
the boat is actually in the FBI headquarters in Washington right now. The actual boat is at FBI headquarters, and the company that owned the boat called Dave Henneberry, and they wanted to give him $100,000 to buy a new boat because we shot it full of holes. And at the end of the day, he said, "You know what? Give the money to the one fund." His wife was actually unfortunately dying of cancer, and at the time, his wife was on the third floor, very, very sick with cancer. And when the police come in, he's still on the phone, and you could hear them saying, like, "Hey, he's in the boat," and they're like, "Is he alive?" He's like, "I don't know." And they go, "Get out of the house," and he's screaming, "My wife's inside! My wife's inside! She's upstairs on the third floor." She ended up passing away. He said, "Give the money to the one fund," which was amazing, and unfortunately, he ended up passing away too. Just a super guy, and just a great
Class
guy.
act. Class act. I gotta tell you. So I may have shared this with you. I'm sure I did, Dave. We were probably drinking a few beers. I'm sure, but in North Carolina. But I know I've shared you this. So I was in Boston, and I got to meet Billy Evans. I got to meet Billy Evans, who was the commissioner of the Boston Police Department at the time, and that's in his office. And he was actually running in the marathon that day. And one of the coveted gifts that Billy gave me a few little things of swag, which I cherish. I got a coffee cup from Billy, and I've never drank any coffee out of it. So I've never even taken it out of the showcase until this show. I thought this is the perfect time. Bill, I'm going to try to get Billy on here sometime down the line because he's a fun guy, and he kept talking about, hey, this is the person that played me in the movie. He was showing me the photos, but he was very gracious with us. Oh, he's a good guy. He took the time to have us in his office, and I think he talked to me for probably 45 minutes, and he's a busy guy. So, well, I mean, as busy as you want to. I mean, I'm going to say they're busy. I don't know how busy they are. The higher up the chain, I don't know really how busy they really are, but he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. So all right. So this thing, and by the way, the Patriot Days of the movie, I know it's not completely accurate. I mean, how far off is that movie?
Well, I mean, some of the stuff in the scenes really never happened, like, with the rifles and all that kind of stuff. It didn't happen. But I will tell you, they tried to do real stuff. I mean, we used to make fun of Jeff Fugely. So this is like the side stuff about this old brown jacket he had on. We're like, buddy, that's like a members only jacket. You got to be the last member. It's like the worst freaking coat ever. But they actually found one and got the same coat that Jeff wore. And that was really his van that they drove in the movie. They drove his actual van and things like that. And
no kidding.
Yeah, he got very, very good friends with Simmons, was the actor for him. J.K. Simmons was the
okay.
He was the guy who played him. I mean, they got tight, and he'd be down the station walking around, just trying to see how the regular rapport was down there. And everybody, there's a lot of needling each other, I guess I should say, is a nice way to say on here between the police.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I was, where's the young man now? Where is he? Do you know where he's being housed?
Yeah, he's actually in Colorado.
And did his death sentence remain? Did it stay?
Yeah. So Biden had there was 40 people on federal death row, and he was going to change them all. He ended up keeping 3. So one of them was Zokar. And actually, I spoke at CrimeCon in May and met some serious people. It was in Colorado. It was in Denver, and I was speaking there. And after I gave the presentation, we had this thing like a meet and greet or whatever. And this guy walks up to me, big, huge guy. He says, "Hey, buddy," he goes, "I know that guy you're talking about." And I'm looking at him, "What do you mean you know him?" He was a prison guard in Florence where he was. He goes, "I see him every day." I said, so he was one of the 3 that they did. So what happened was, I don't know if a lot of people know this, is that he was given a death sentence, and then it got appealed and overturned. And Clarence Thomas came back in from the Supreme Court and said, "Hold it. Everyone's entitled to their trial." He got it, and it's going back. He's getting the death sentence. So it was between that and then keeping him as not one of the people who would be commuted, which kept him on federal death row, which is good.
I did not know that. I can tell you this, Dave. I don't know if you've ever been to Florence. There it is. It's Florence. No. That's the Supermax. I went there to interview somebody one time, and which is kind of cool because that's just not a place that people get to go to. They get into. Yeah, right. I mean, it's a very, very secure place, and they have got 3 different sections. They've got the big name people with like El Chapo. He's in there.
He's in there. Yep.
And El Chapo, Terry Nichols from the Oklahoma City bombing. This kid here from
the shoe bomber's in there. Reed, he's over there.
Yeah, Yep. The guys that were involved in 9/11, the first one, not 9/11, but the World Trade Center bombing, the first one, and stuff like that. And while I was there, I mean, it's so secure that you get a stamp on your hand, and you're basically getting scanned every 50 feet to make sure, I mean, that kind of deal. But while I was there, I was curious. I was like, hey, tell me about all these different guys that you got in there, and this kid. From what I understand, he's a little bit of a crybaby. He basically sues them for everything. So
I can't believe the amount of money he has in his canteen. The people that support
really,
him, like it's just like you have these people that go to the finish line. I mean, look at it just from completely out. Forget about law enforcement, whatever. I mean, you have all these innocent people going to the Boston Marathon for 100+ years to sit at the finish line, and you go over there and blow up an 8-year-old kid, and 2 other people are killed. And another police officer ends up dying as a result of those injuries, and so now it's a lot. And people who lost their legs and things like that. And that's one thing, like, the Watertown Police, we do a road race every year for it. And Jeff Bowman, he was the guy who, unfortunately, another one who lost his legs. He made the movie Stronger and wrote the book. I mean, he stayed very close with us. And Carlos Abadando, the person, it's an iconic picture of him moving down in the wheelchair. It was just an amazing thing to work, But I will tell you this, and I say this all the time, it was by far, based on what you said at teamwork, the biggest team approach I've ever worked in my life. And that we had a shirt, like we started as many, we finished as one. That was the whole deal. It really didn't matter. Everybody was really working together.
Just to give people an idea of the number of injuries, I think it was 280 people that were affected. I could be wrong on that number, but I know it's 200 and something.
Yeah.
Do you know?
There's more than that. It's 280 and a change up there. Yes.
Okay. That were actually injured from the blast. You've got 3 people that died from the blast. There's 2 pressure cookers that blew 14 seconds apart, and then there was 14 survivors that required amputations. Then you've got, including the other bomber's brother, then you've got 3 deaths that happened, in which 2 of them were cops, and one of them was the MIT police officer. And then the other one was one that died as a result of a cerebral aneurysm from being shot at a later date. What agency was he? I just want to make sure we mention him.
Boston PD.
Oh, Boston PD. Okay. Yeah. So when did he get shot? Did he get shot at that deal on that?
He got injured there and died as a result of the injuries on that day.
Okay. That's got to be it's got to be one of the worst it's got to be, well, it's one of the worst domestic terrorist events in our nation's history. Probably. It's one of the worst. It's just one of the worst as far as that goes. And actually, I don't even know that it's domestic terrorism. They're kind of Islamic terrorists. Where were they from?
They're from I believe the Czech Republic or from there. But see, the thing was, he wanted to be a boxer and he wanted to fight in the Olympics. And because he couldn't be a citizen, he got very aggravated with the United States because he wanted to be a boxer and he couldn't do it to fight in the Olympics. And supposedly things, don't quote me on this now, but things, I guess, elevated, and that's how we kind of took this approach towards the U.S. because people knew him. He was at a local boxing club with police officers who knew him. I mean, in Cambridge, Newton, things like that. He was, I mean, very well known. So,
anything else you want to share about this particular event?
No, buddy, that was it. It was just
it's just a horrific deal, and really, he's just scratching the surface. I mean, there's so many. There's just so much to talk about with this, and I really do appreciate you being sharing that story with us, because that's a big deal, and so forth. And you know a lot about it. So what's in the future for Dave MacNeil? What are you going to be doing coming up, man?
Here's the deal. Since I retired, I was afraid of doing nothing, so I said yes to everything. So I got a couple issues going on now. So I work for NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I was assigned as the unidentified human remains person for the East Coast. I had to step back from that for a couple of months. I had a few things going on, but once I get fixed up in the doctor's office, I think I'll be fine. The VDOC Society, I'm on the board of directors there. I can't say enough about that. So I'm the chairman of the training committee and the fundraising committee, and the training that we do is just outstanding. And it's all law enforcement. Any law enforcement can go. It's always free. We do that, and we're going to be doing a lot of teaching. So on the website, we have some trainings coming up. And what was kind of weird is that, people say they're very interested into it, and there's a lot of people out there who watch your show. And I really saw it at CrimeCon. It's how many civilians are actually involved in police work and how much they love it. So we're starting CSI for the regular guy. It's going to be actual crime scene training. They can come out and do all these kind of things. We're going to have some trainings at night for civilians to come in and use the actual stuff. I mean, real things. Not going to sit there. It's not going to be death by PowerPoint. We want the people to do it. And that's what we do in the trainings for the police, too. You're hands-on doing it. If someone says, hey, man, can I get fingerprints off this item? Well, let's go buy it. We go get it, and let's do it. Let's not talk about it. Let's do it. Because I could talk about it all the time, and you have to actually do it. And
where do cops go to find these kind of training?
So we're going to put
where do they go for that
on the website, and then we post it on a Facebook page now. We're going to have LinkedIn, things, all these kind of here, whatever. So we're going to put some trainings up. We have coming one the last week of March. It looks like it's going to be in Lexington, Massachusetts Police Department, which unbelievable with Patriots Day. I mean, that was the Battle of Lexington Concord. That's where it all happened, right there. And Lexington, Mass has a beautiful new police station. They let me have their facility there. So we're going to be doing a 1 week training there the last week of March. That'll be on the site soon. And then we're going to try to put them out quite often. Things like that. It's just great. I can't say enough about it. And when you see the guys coming in, when you see a detective who's got 25, 28 years coming in, and he's still, really into this stuff, and he wants to learn more, and how are we doing it now? To me, that's the best thing in the world. I love it more than you know. I just can't walk away from it. That's why I'm still in it from every different angle.
I put it up there. I want to make sure that I find it one more time just to make sure that I don't miss it so people can see it. I didn't mention it, but if you want to get in touch with Dave and you wanted to send him an email and let's say you're a cop in North Carolina and you wanted to talk to him about, hey, listen, I got this case. I want to bounce this off. Is this a case that maybe that VDOC would be an option? Then there you go. Dave MacNeil, PI.com or at MacNeilPI.com and reach out to him. He's on LinkedIn. You can find him. It's not hard to find this guy. And he'll help you.
What's good about it, and believe me, I always stay in my lane. I never want to talk about something I don't know, but I will tell you this. If we don't know the answer, we know somebody who does. And that's best
right.
part about being in the network of who to call. It's not going to be like, geez, I don't know. We can put you in with somebody that's there, and we are going to really be doing some trainings. And if anybody ever wanted to host a training, we would love to come to your facility, and it doesn't cost you a penny. We bring everything you possibly need. I just need a room, a projector, and a plate and a bay to process some things. That's it, and we'll get it done. So we're excited about it. Very excited about it.
Well, I'm really excited about that because I didn't know that, and I know a lot of agencies
on the list. Yeah,
it's we might be bringing you to Tulsa, buddy. I'm going to have to try to work something out, or at least to the state training facility and they've got a great facility. So we're going to have to we're going to be in touch. We're friends now, Dave.
That's it, man. Yeah.
And I'm probably going to he's probably going to be like, "Are you kidding me? This guy's calling me again." But that's okay.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Listen, man, I appreciate everything. I appreciate you being here. You've really something special, and I really do appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is not a show without you. It's just not. I can't. He was on a show recently that he said there was 5 million people that listen to this show.
He had 5 million viewers, and I actually thought he was joking with me. He goes, "Hey, Dave, how you doing? I'm from Soft White Underbelly," and I give him some wise answer back. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." He goes, "No, I'm serious. Have you ever heard of my show?" I said, "No." He goes, "I have 5 million followers." And we ended up talking for like an hour and 20 minutes. And I thought we were going to be talking about something else. And that was the actual video. So it was on Soft White Underbelly. And, and I get into the whole deal about, the whole lifestyle deal. But I had no idea that was what we were filming. But that was kind of crazy.
Epic. Ladies and gentlemen, please follow me on Instagram. There you go. Click on that. Go to my Instagram. Go to my TikTok. I need you on TikTok. TikTok is I'm starting to get really interested in TikTok for some reason, but look into that, please. And there you go. You can click onto that. You can reach me on any of these sites. You can go follow me on my Detective Jason White Facebook page. Please do that. I do interact. Dave, I actually interact. I don't know if you have like a website that you have a blog page or anything like that, or I don't know.
It's actually it's up now. This podcast will be on it. We have an area for podcasts and the news, and even news that in the area. So we're going to try to keep that up and very lively, so people can get
perfect.
Yep.
I'm going to send you the link to this that you can put up, and that's great. Ladies and gentlemen, also remember to like and subscribe. Please do that. listen, I don't make a dime on this thing. I need you to do it because it helps me get big time guests. I had to convince him. It's like he goes, yeah, man, I've been on a show with 5 million viewers. And I'm like, okay, well, we got 3,000 subscribers, but you know what?
Go on. Yeah.
I love it. But no, he's going to be putting together something. And when he does, we're definitely going to put that out there, and we're going to promote his as well. Also check out the debrief, Tyler Burns, who's joined us tonight. Thanks for being here, everybody. Danny, all the way down to Karen Roscoe, Sally, Travis from Muskogee, down in Muskogee. He's a law enforcement officer down there. Appreciate you being here. And the list goes on and on. And April Woods, thanks a lot. I appreciate you being here. And there's Carrie. Thank you. Carrie Bowdry. Thank you. And there's many, many others that I just wanted to at least make a mention of you. I'm seeing a D Burrows, and that's my cousin, Darren. He's up in Washington State. Thanks for being here, Darren. You're the bomb. I appreciate the support. And everybody else, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think it was too bad tonight. I didn't make too many screw-ups. I think that if I'm better prepared the next time, it's going to be awesome. And like I said, Dave, I cannot thank you enough. I think that there's a lot that you're bringing to the table here. I'm really excited about this cold case thing, and I'm wanting to learn more about what you do there because that's really incredible.
You got a personal invite to come down the third Thursday of every month. You come in whenever you want.
I know.
I guess.
I know. And finally, I'm going to tell you this real quick, because I will try to do that. Is it always in Philadelphia?
Always, yeah. And it's always the third Thursday of the month, except for July, August, and December. So if you're like, what day is it? Just go 1, 2, 3, and that's the day.
One day I'm gonna definitely try to make an effort to do that. And so and then finally I want to mention this, that golly, what was I going to mention? I was going to mention something really big about you, and I don't know, it just escaped me, but it was really big. But definitely you got to check us out, and thank you again everybody for being here. I want to remember what that was because it was really big. But anyway, I sure appreciate you being here. Like I said, episode number 80. Next week, I can't remember who it's going to be. It's going to be somebody really epic. As a matter of fact, the next month, it's going to be somebody. It's really, we've got a lot of really dynamite. Actually, next week. Actually, I know what we're doing next week. I'm speaking, so I might end up throwing up a pre-record. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to throw probably a pre-record if I can get somebody on in between now and then. And if not, I've got a case where somebody was buried in the concrete in a house for a long time. And so it's going to be from Beaumont, Texas, and it's going to be a really exciting thing. It's going to be the first time he's ever presented this case, and we're going to talk about it here.
Nice.
And, it's great, man. Yeah, it's going to be epic. And so, and anyway, nevertheless, thank you again, Dave. Stick around. Don't get off of here. And until next time, and like I say, next time, I'm not for sure. We might have a pre-record that I'm going to throw up, but if not, then I'll throw something else up. But until next time, take us out, Chris.